Hello everyone, welcome back to our oceanography. In today's session, we will be discussing one of the most interesting facts of our Earth's surface, that is coral reef. We all might have been fascinated by seeing the several pictures of coral reefs in our daily lives. So in today's session, we will be discussing about what a coral reef is, what are the ways by which a coral reef will be forming, what are the conditions necessary for the growth of the coral reef? What are the different types of coral reefs found? What is the significance of the coral reef? And what are the present threats faced by the coral reefs of the world? So, a coral reef is a particular phenomenon that is found in association with submarine platform. It is a form of protoplasm that flourishes mostly in warm water bodies. These type of organisms live in the form of communities between 20 degree to 25 degree on both north and south latitudes. They are found in submarine areas that receives a temperature of at least 68 degree Fahrenheit and does not found beyond a depth of 150 feet. How the corals are being formed? Coral is it's a type of calcareous rock built from the skeletons of thousands of minute sea organisms. We call that sea organisms known as polyps. These polyps are shallow water organisms which have a very soft body covered with a calcareous skeleton. These polyps will be converting their soft bodies to a hard skeleton by extracting the calcium salt from the seawater. These polyps being a lime segregating organisms, when they perish, their outer shell will consolidate together due to its cementing nature and thus forms the particular feature called corals. This cycle will be repeated for millions of years, leading to the accumulation of layers of corals and thereby rising to the formation of coral reef. Let's look into some of the important conditions necessary for the growth of corals. Suitable submarine platform. A submarine platform associated with continental margin or in and around an island is necessary for the growth of the coral reef. Sufficient heat and light energy. Corals generally flourish well in warm waters as well as in those areas that receive sufficient light energy. As the tropical region mainly experience such type of conditions, corals are abundantly found in tropical areas. Salinity is another important factor that influences the growth of corals. Corals require moderate salinity for its perfect growth, but too much of salinity will act as harmful for the growth of corals. Fresh water is harmful for the growth of corals. As the fresh water lacks salinity, it is harmful for the growth of corals. In river mouths, as the growth of corals you cannot find too much because large quantity of fresh water is being mixed into the ocean water near to the river mouth, and hence it prevents the growth of corals in such areas. Sediment-free water. Coral reefs always prefers to grow in a sediment-free water. As such, they are mainly found in continental margin areas. Corals also prefer calm sea condition for its perfect growth. Hence, ocean currents will prevent the growth of the coral reefs. Let's look into the various types of our coral reefs. According to Darwin, coral reefs are generally classified into three on the basis of their mode of formation, namely fringing, barrier reef, and atoll. But the scientists generally divide the coral reef into four classes, namely fringing reef, barrier reef, atoll, and patch reef. We will be discussing all these classes in detail in the coming slides. Fringing reef is the first stage of coral reef formation. Fringing reefs are generally reefs that grow directly from a shore. These reefs are usually found either at a continental margin or in and around an island. Usually, they are found below the sea level, but sometimes it is extended upwards, which depends upon the growth of the coral reef. The width of the fringing reef varies from 0.5 km to 2.5 km. Often, these fringing reefs will form a shallow lagoon between the beach and the main body of the reef. Barrier reef. Barrier reefs are less common when compared to our fringing reef or atolls. When the fringing reef develops, it spreads to the adjoining areas of the coastline one after other. These found to be barrier to the coastline, and this is known as barrier reef. Thus, barrier reef is an elongated accumulation of corals lying at low tide level parallel to the coast, but it is separated from it by a wide and deep lagoon or strait. Barrier reefs are the largest and the most extensive of all the reefs. In the diagram, you can see that how a fringing reef has developed to a barrier reef. In the beginning, the coral reefs were started growing near to the island. Later on, it starts growing more and more extensive and started rising up above the sea level, dividing the water of the sea into two. Thus, the barrier reefs are formed. The barrier reefs are of several kilometers wide and hundreds of kilometers long. Generally, the distance between the barrier reef and the coast vary from 30 meters to 5.6 kilometers. When the barrier reef is formed, there will be some gap sections in between the fringing reef, and these gap sections will be filled with water. And this gap sections that is filled with water, we term it as boat channel. So in the diagram you can see a boat channel. What happens here is that when the fringing reef will be developing to a barrier reef, some gaps will be occurring, and these gaps will be automatically filled with ocean water. Through these gaps, the boat can pass very easily, and hence these gaps are being termed as boat channel. Thus, there is a separation of water within the sea when a barrier reef developed. The barrier reef thus acts as a protector between the waters of two sides. The water that is found near to the coastline, we call them as a lagoon, and whereas on the other side, we call them as an open ocean. In the diagram, you can see that a formation of a lagoon and open ocean as a result of the formation of barrier reef. You know, the Great Barrier Reef of Australia is the longest barrier reef in the world. This is a 1,200-mile long barrier reef found in the northeastern coast of Australia. It was discovered by Captain James Cook on June 1770. This barrier reef is 2,028 km long and is up to 150 km wide. This is not actually a single reef. It is a conglomeration of thousands of interlinked segments. Thus, the Great Barrier Reef of Australia is not a single reef, but it has been formed as a result of the joining of many types of reefs in and around that region. The Great Barrier Reef of Australia is one of the largest biodiversities found in the world. It consists of 500 different species of corals, 1,000 species of molluscs, 3,000 species of shorefish, and 40 species of sea snake. When the barrier reef began to develop more and more, it shapes a circular form and attains a mature stage. And this we call as an atoll. When an atoll is formed, a typical lagoon will emerge. Thus, from the diagram, you can see that an atoll is a ring-shaped island reef that encircles a central lagoon of seawater. Usually, an atoll is having a convex surface and have elliptical or semi-elliptical in shape. Atolls are particularly a common feature in Pacific Ocean, but very few is only seen in Indian and Atlantic Ocean. An atoll generally takes the form in any of the three ways. One is a true atoll. Sometimes the island, if it is surrounded by an atoll, will get submerged in the lagoon. and this is known as true atoll. That means that in a true atoll, you cannot find any land area or any island as it might be already submerged under the sea. You can only see the waters of the lagoon. If the island is present in such an atoll, we call them as an island atoll. Coral island is another form by which an atoll will be formed. You will be discussing the coral island in the upcoming slides. The Fiji atoll and the Funafuti atoll in the Ellis Island are the well-known examples of atolls. You can see large number of atolls occurring in our Lakshadweep island. Similarly, you all might be so curious to know the stories of Bermuda. Bermuda is one of the atolls present in the Atlantic Ocean. Patch reef. Patch reef is actually not a stage of formation of coral reefs. They are small isolated reefs that grow up from the open bottom of the island platform or continental shelf. But these patch reefs are always surrounded by a sandbar or by a seagrass, and they occur between the fringing reef and barrier reef. Patch reefs are usually found in 3 to 6 meter depth of water. Rarely they reaches the surface of the water. Coral island. There are many groups of small islands that is scattered across the tropical oceans. Many of such type of mountains and islands are formed as a product of volcanic activity occurring deep inside the oceans. When this volcanic activity goes on, we call them as a active volcanic mountain or an active volcanic island. But after some time, this volcanic activity starts ceasing and these mountains will become passive mountains. The corals would automatically surround such type of islands and mountains and cover it. And later on, this will be formed as a coral island. So in the diagram, you can see that how an active volcano has finally turned to be an atoll or a coral island. All of us might have been heard about the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, but don't think that the Great Barrier Reef of Australia is the only known and famous or the largest barrier reef or any coral reef in the world. So let's look into some of the beautiful and the most important barrier reefs of the world. The Bliss Barrier Reef. The Bliss Barrier Reef is the second largest barrier reef in the world. It stretches from the Mexico along the coast of Belize to Honduras. The New Caledonian Barrier Reef. You know what is the significance of this reef? This is the second largest double barrier reef in the world. That means that almost in the way of a parallel, two coral reefs or two reefs are growing wide and wide. This reef has a length of 1,500 kilometers. Bahamas Barrier Reef. This is the third largest barrier reef in the world. Pulley Ridge is the deepest coral reef ridge of the world. This is generally found near to the coast of Florida. And you know all about the tourism in Maldives. The Maldives is the country that is being mainly supported by the tourism industry as a result of its atoll and the coral reef. So let's look into the significance of the coral reefs. Coral reefs are one of the most diverse ecosystems of the planet. Apart from it, they protect the coastlines from damaging the effect of wave action and tropical storms. They provide habitats and shelter for many marine organisms. Corals are the source of nitrogen and other essential nutrients for marine food chain. They assist in carbon and nitrogen fixing and also help with nutrient recycling. They provide huge support for the fishing industry as they are the major habitats and shelter for these marine organisms. Apart from this, corals is a main backbone of several social, cultural and recreational activities of many countries of the world. Like other resources, our coral reefs are also posing a severe they are also posed with many threats as a result of our anthropogenic activities. ocean acidification is one of the serious threats that is being faced by coral reefs of today. The coral growth and the reef growth always slows down due to high acidification. So what is ocean acidification? It is the change in the ocean chemistry in response to the uptake of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Don't think that the increase in the carbon dioxide will only affect the atmosphere of our Earth. There maintains an equilibrium between the atmospheric carbon dioxide and the marine carbon dioxide. If the atmospheric carbon dioxide increases, the rate of absorption of marine carbon dioxide will also increase. So every year, the ocean absorbs 1/4 of the total carbon dioxide emitted from burning of fossil fuels. This increased the ocean acidity to about 30% as a result of several industrial activities, and this rate is 10 times more than what happened in the last 1 million years. Increase in the ocean acidity has reduced the availability of dissolved salts and ions needed for the growth of corals to form their calcium carbonate structure. Climate change is one of the serious issues that we are talking about day by day. The corals cannot survive if the water temperature is too high. Of course, they require good temperature and light for its essential growth, but too much of temperature poses severe threat to the growth of corals. The global warming has led to increase of coral bleaching nowadays, and this is expected to increase its frequency and severity in the coming decades. And such type of bleaching events had already occurred in the coral reefs of our Great Barrier Reef of Australia, as you can see in the given picture. Fishing. Overfishing has affected the ecological balance of the coral reef communities due to wrapping the food chain and causing effect far beyond the direct overfished population. Tourism is one of the most developed industry as a result of the growth of coral reefs. However, this careless tourism due to boating, diving, snorkeling, fishing that happens around the world, and also the people touching the coral reefs, stirring up the sediments, all these has resulted in negative impact in the growth of corals. Some tourist resorts even built their infrastructures directly on the top of these reefs, and some will empty sewages and other waste directly into the water surrounding the coral reefs, and these all poses a severe threat to the growth of corals. Apart from all this, there are some local causes that also affected the growth of coral reefs, like physical damage or destruction as a result of the coastal development. So, in the name of coastal development, dredging, quarrying, destructive fishing practices and gears, boat anchors and groundings are going on that poses a severe threat to the growth of corals. Pollution that originates from the land resulted in sedimentation, the nutrient accumulation from various agricultural and fertilizer uses, then pathogens from inadequately treated sewage also poses a serious threat to the growth of corals. I hope you have got a glimpse idea of what a coral reef, how it is formed, what are the different types, and what are the significance, and why we need to protect the corals as it poses severe threat from our anthropogenic activities. Hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you and have a nice day.